Mailbag time here on the Cleveland Browns Report. Matthew Peterson answering questions that came in during our live show, which airs on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. So come hang out with us if you have a question you would like to ask. Our first question coming in from Gregory. What is your biggest fear going into 2025? That's an awesome question, Gregory. My biggest fear would have to be there's the low-hanging fruit of Deshaun Watson continues to be the starter and continues to be bad. But that's almost a little bit expected at the way that Watson played last year. So I'll take it one step further and say we really start to notice the regression of like Denzel Ward and feel like, wow, some of those primes are really closing up. I think Garrett's still going to be a high-level player for the next 3 to 5 years. The guy's an absolute sculpture of a human being. He's Superman. But Denzel Ward, Nick Chubb, those primes may be coming a little bit to an end. And that's what probably will bum me the most out about 2025 of, yeah, might be time to start finding a new CB1. Kathy, what's going on? Kevin is the best head coach since Marty Schottenhiemer. What do you think? Probably, yeah. I mean, it's not really great competition, though. So I never like using compare this person to previous quarterback or previous coach as a argument or something to defend your argument with. The bar is so low for Browns quarterbacks and coaches since 99 that we really shouldn't be comparing them to previous Browns coaches and Browns quarterbacks. We should be comparing them to the rest of the league and see how they stack up against the competition. But yeah, I would agree with that statement right there. Do you think, Austin, do you think Watson will be the expected starter all next year still? Or do you think Stefanski and Barry are getting fed up too? I am going to say that Barry and Stefanski are likely going to explore quarterback draft options. It doesn't mean that they're going to get the guy they may fall in love with. He may go before them. They may be picking, 5, 6, 7, 8. They could win a couple of games and get out of reach. And if that's the case, they will probably then fall back to Deshaun Watson. But if they are on the clock and their guy is on the board, Watson might go out the window like that. So my guess is first line of attack is let's see if we fall in love with a quarterback. If we do, is he expected to be available when we're on the clock? If yes, then we might string Watson along a little bit, and he might be the victim of a lot of starting quarterbacks who get surprised when they pick a new QB in the draft. Although this one really wouldn't be too big of a surprise to anyone, right? So I feel like they probably are, but this is not a loaded quarterback class where they can still find a good one after, I think, Ward and Sanders. So if they fall in love with those guys, but they're picking 8th overall and the team's going 1 and 2 want QBs, they may not have a choice in the matter. Scoomy Gaming, sorry. Do you think if the Browns get a top 3 pick in the draft, should we trade down for a 2025 first rounder and 2026 first round pick? What do you think? If you could get a Bryce Young haul, I'd be inclined to consider it. In the moment, it sounds crazy for the Browns to pass on drafting a quarterback, but we should know by now that there's no guarantees in the draft. And for how old this roster is, it may be in their best interest to stock up on some extra picks. Plus, this draft really isn't the bee's knees, so if you can get an extra first rounder next year, I like that option. Now, if Cam Ward is the belle of the ball and the Browns love him and he's available, then they should not pass up on Ward just to get extra picks. But if they don't fall in love with the quarterback, I would definitely be on board with trade back a little bit and acquire some more capital. So gaming, I like this approach initially. We just have to wait and see how the rest of the year plays out for the prospects in the draft and also for the Browns to see where they're picking. But really good thought, though. Not rejecting this at all. 1911. Do you think Dustin Hopkins can be reliable enough to be long-term, or are we starting to see why the Chargers let him go? The Browns did give Hopkins an extension, so it's not big money, but they kind of have a little bit of an attachment to him beyond just this season. But I am seeing traits of what we saw from Hopkins before he got to Cleveland last year. I will add, I'm kind of glad, this will sound really twisted and effed up, I'm kind of glad he's having a down year. I don't want to see Hopkins have an incredible year and a wasted season. Like, if you're going to suck, we all might as well suck. I don't want to see anyone have an amazing career season on a 2-win ball club. Like, that's got to feel like such a gut punch of, well, we wasted Dustin Hopkins' kicking magic. No. Save that for next year, hopefully. More questions to get to in just a moment, but first a quick shout out to our sponsor today, and that is Game Time. There are so many things I love about Game Time. One of them is their all-in pricing option. Toggling this feature shows the total upfront cost with no surprise fees at checkout. Plus, they offer the Game Time guarantee. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Also, check out Game Time Picks. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Liberty Kimball, what's the best option at QB next season? Whew. That's kind of the million-dollar question. All right. Let's start internally. You've got DTR under contract for next year. If Jameis plays well, maybe you bring him back to be a bridge quarterback if you want to move on from Watson. As for the draft, it's really tough to say without knowing what pick the Browns are going to have. But there are two candidates that I would consider in round one, and only two. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. Those are the only two guys I think are worthy of a first-round pick for Cleveland at the quarterback position. What am I going to predict happens? If the Browns fall in love with Ward and Sanders and one of them is available when Cleveland's on the clock, then they'll probably take that quarterback. If they don't fall in love with the quarterback or they're taken before the Browns are on the clock, they're probably going to roll back with Watson. So what's the best option at QB next season? I mean, it's tough to say Watson after the way he played, but he's somewhat shaping up to be their only option unless they draft someone. And it's difficult to say that without knowing what pick they have. I'll tell you what option I'm not really on board with, and that's going out and getting a bridge quarterback. If that's the case, might as well just start Watson again, right? I don't think you're going to find a bridge quarterback who can play much better. And that's more a reflection of teams probably going to be resetting a little bit. There's not going to be a great offensive line, ton of skilled wide receivers, or a loaded wide receiver core. Probably have a rookie running back. At that spot, just keep your money and play Watson since you're already paying him so much. Corey Dots, Will Campbell round 1, Jalen Milroe round 2. I like the Will Campbell part. I don't like the Jalen Milroe part. I'm all on board with best player available in round 1, wherever the Browns may be selecting. And I think investing in the offensive line is long overdue. I mean, think about the last couple of drafts. What's the earliest the Browns have taken an offensive lineman? Zach Zinter in round 3, DeJuan Jones in round 4, Jed Wills in round 1 in 2020, and that's been a flop. They are overdue for using a premium asset, a first or a second round draft pick, on the offensive line. I like the idea of investing in the offensive line in round 1. Hendricks, outside of the line, what's a good impact player at what position you could see the Browns draft or that would be available top 3 rounds? All right. McMillan out of Arizona. He's an awesome receiver. He pops in my head as, hey, you want to go get someone who looks like a surefire thing, that's an option for you. There's a lot of really good DBs in this draft. I'm not really convinced the Browns need a DB, although if they feel like Denzel Ward may not be here for much longer just because of all the injuries and the way Newsome played and Emerson so far this year, like Will Johnson out of Michigan, that'd be a fun pick right there, a real big playmaker at the cornerback position. So those are two guys at opposite positions that jump out to me. Running back, I don't think the Browns should use a first-round pick on a running back. Defense, I'm going to toss this. You said outside the line. I'm going to say you meant offensive line. James Pierce. I mean, imagine if you pair Myles Garrett with a stud opposite edge rusher, a young one, and you've got what I kind of loved growing up, which was using the Colts in Madden because of Mathis and Freeney. Get your own Mathis and Freeney right now, and not just a rotation opposite of Garrett. Chubathon, we gave Deshaun up to a team and 2 second-round picks to get rid of him and his salary. Kind of like Brock Osweiler. Also, could we see Juwan Briggs since we cut Jefferson? Yeah, former 6th, 7th round pick, not 7th, out of Cincinnati, Juwan Briggs. It's not apples to apples with Osweiler. The thing that's getting lost is even if you trade Deshaun Watson away, you still have the cap hits. Those don't go with Watson. You just don't have to pay him. But he's still going to be on the books. And I don't really care about Jimmy Haslam's money. I don't care if Haslam no longer has to pay Watson. He's still going to be accounted for as a dead cap hit. So trading him doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I don't think you're going to improve this roster by getting him off your roster and also losing draft picks in the process. So no go for me. Before we sign off, I do want to ask where everyone is watching from. It's always good to see where people tune in from because this fan base is one of the loudest and the proudest and one of the largest in the National Football League. So shout out your city for me down below in the chat.